Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live episode of The Kelly. Today, today's topic is going to be about George Clooney turning on President Joe Biden. Yes, the actor George Clooney has had a change of heart and he wants Joe Biden to step down. So, George Clooney wrote an op-ed in the New York Times basically asking for Joe Biden to step down, even though 3 weeks ago he participated in a celebrity endorsement for Joe Biden, which raised $30 million. Then another actor, Michael Douglas, appeared on The View and he was asked about George Clooney wanting Joe Biden to step down. And Michael Douglas agreed and admitted it was a valid point and that he's deeply concerned about Joe Biden's health. So we have a special guest today, Mr. OG. So we are going to have a discussion about Joe Biden and if he should step down. We have 4 months until the election. And, should Joe Biden just stay in the race or should he step down with 4 months to go?
Politically infused topic because what a lot of people were theorizing is that he should step.
Okay. Whoa. Welcome to the live stream, Mr. OG. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing today, Miss Kelly?
I am doing great. So, the topic of discussion is about George Clooney wanting Joe Biden to step down and if Joe Biden should indeed step down, and also if he should just stay in the race with 4 months to go. And then question, another thing would be, should actors, famous people, have any say so in what happens in elections or, with the president? So, first, what do you think about George Clooney asking for Joe Biden to step down after he was in a fundraiser for him only 3 weeks ago? And now he has had a change of heart 3 weeks later.
I think the presidential debate really showed a lot of characteristics of Biden's dementia, and that's why a lot of his celebrity and major funding support is slowly pulling away from him.
So, what do you think about George Clooney, who was photographed with Julia Roberts and Obama and also Biden? They were in a fundraiser for Biden, which happened before the debate. And he, in his op-ed in the New York Times, he is saying that he noticed that night that Joe Biden is not the same as he was in 2010, but I am quite sure that he already knew this beforehand. So it's like this revelation, him asking Joe Biden to step down is because there's been talks in the media, because he obviously didn't say this after the fundraiser. He's saying this now after Joe Biden has been dragged through the mud for his debate performance.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people are coming in contact with Joe Biden, it's in such a very controlled environment that it's really no opportunity to maybe notice a change in his mental state. But him being on that stage for an hour without the handlers, it really provided some compelling evidence to all that was supporting him that maybe he's not the right choice for the Democratic Party.
So, do you think George Clooney has the right? Okay, George Clooney definitely has the right to ask Joe Biden to step down. However, should Joe Biden and his handlers listen to George Clooney?
Well, this is another story that's with it, but it's the heir to the Disney fortune, Abigail Disney. She actually has pulled all funding from the Democrats unless Joe Biden steps down. So I think that the ramifications for the entire party of what is at stake is why you are seeing people come out in droves and ask for him not to keep running in this race.
So, we are in today is July 10th, 2024, and the election is in November. Do you think it's a little too late to make a change, or what do you think with 4 months to go?
Absolutely. What was being theorized was that Biden should pull out immediately after Super Tuesday, but he looked strong at that time. He had just did the speech to the national people. So I think it is a little bit too late. Plus, the Democrats are running to the issue of who would replace them or who would replace him that has a strong enough following to compete with the Republican powerhouse that is Donald Trump.
So, to clarify, are you suggesting that whether or not they replace Joe Biden, it's too late?
Affirmative. I think he's shown increased mental defensivency, and I think that it's not enough time for whoever the Democrats will put in Joe Biden's stead to garner enough support to compete with Trump.
So, what should the Democrats do? Because, in your opinion, whether or not Joe Biden is replaced, it's a done deal. So, should they just leave him in the race or should they replace him?
That's such a twofold question because my opinion is if they leave him in the race, that damages the Democratic standard. You know, we're like, okay, you know something's clearly wrong with this guy mentally, but you're still pushing him on the American people. And I think that will lead, even though Donald Trump can only run for one term, I think it could lead to multiple terms of Republican presidents. So I really think their best course of action is to put whoever they want going for the presidency in 2028 to be to be president 29. That's who they put into the race now, and then he just campaigns this entire 4 years of Donald Trump because just like the Democrats in 2028, the Republican Party will have to start with a fresh candidate, and they won't have the hurdle of the powerhouse of popularity that is Donald Trump.
Do you think that the Democratic Party should put Kamala in since she is the vice president? Wouldn't that be the, you could say, first choice?
Well, one of the things theorized that they were going to run Joe Biden again, and then immediately after his reelection, have him step down and have her step up as president. Because the issue Kamala has is a trust issue. A lot of people feel like she's disingenuous. Unlike Michael Pence in Trump's election, we have hardly seen anything of Kamala in these 4 years. So I just think she has a major image issue that's going to be a hurdle for the Democrats to overcome.
Do you think that men would vote for Kamala Harris or a woman for president in general? Because we already seen when Hillary ran in 2016 what happened. And now you have to factor in that Kamala Harris is a non-white woman.
Yeah, honestly, I think, Hillary couldn't beat Obama in 2012. She couldn't beat Trump in 2016. So I hate it for crooked Hillary, but I think America's, even though, Obama being the first black president was a big deal, I just don't think the American populace is ready to accept a female president.
Why do you think that America is not ready to accept a female president, in your opinion?
Well, the statistics, and I'm not even talking about American men, overwhelmingly more women voted for Barack Obama than they did for Hillary Clinton. And even more telling, more women voted for Donald Trump than they did for Hillary Clinton. So I just don't think the women are convinced that they can let a woman lead them.
Why do you think that women are not why do you think that women didn't come together like black people came together for Barack Obama? Why wouldn't women come together to get a woman president in there?
I mean, that's such a multifaceted question because it plays out across all sectors in society. Women don't come together to support the WNBA or any woman's sport. Women don't come together to support the president. I think it's a lot of women driving some of the female senators that we have and governors, but it's still not many of those. So, me being a man, I couldn't tell you why women have a ingrained distrust of women, maybe. That's what I would think it is. But you, as a woman, would probably be better to answer that for the people.
Well, I would say that I am not sure why women wouldn't vote for another woman. You would think, in theory, that there has never been a female president, and that since about half the people in America are women, you would think, in theory, that if they believed there was a woman that was qualified to run, you would think that women in large masses would vote for this woman, as a woman would understand women's issues more than a man. But like you said, they didn't do that. So I can't speak to why women did what they did.
Yeah, I think women supporting women is a very interesting intersectional topic in this discussion because, and ironic as it might sound, a lot of people say if Michelle Obama was put up as the Democratic nominee to replace Biden, that she would win in a landslide. But she doesn't want to do it. So, why would she not want to do it, I guess? And do you think it's because she feels women won't support her?
As far as Michelle Obama goes, I'm not sure if it has anything to do with support from women. Maybe she's seen what it was like already to be in the White House since President Obama was already in, and she just doesn't want to deal with what comes with being a president. She probably doesn't want to go through that again. As far as Michelle Obama winning in a landslide, I think that some people might think that if they voted for Michelle Obama, they would get Barack Obama again. So if they liked what the country was like when Obama was president, then in theory they would vote for Michelle Obama. However, I do believe that there is going to be some percentage of people, men and women, who may not want to vote for another woman. Just like there are people who don't want to vote for an African American, but to what percentage, I don't know.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I always thought it was curious. One of the suggested nominees to replace Biden was Gavin Newsom. I think you're a little closer on that side of the world. On the West Coast, how do they feel about how California is being ran?
Well, the stories that I read about California and the inflation and the crime, every all the stories that I personally read about California and Gavin Newsom are all negative. I don't read anything good coming out of California. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't good coming into going into California, but what keeps coming across my social media, the stories that I read about California, it's almost all negative. You know, the inflation, high crime, weird, wild promises of reparations for blacks that are, I don't believe are ever going to happen. I don't know if you knew that that I read last year that they were trying to give each black person in California $5 million, and I don't believe that that will ever happen. I mean, I would bet everything that that will never happen. And also, $5 million is an absurd amount. You know, there's a few million black people in California, so if you gave each one $5 million, you'd bankrupt your own economy.
You think so? I think that the reparations talk in California is about the only good thing that I'm hearing coming out the state of California. Just being me on the East Coast, I didn't want to make such a wild accusation because that's what the accusation is, that Gavin Newsom is running California into the ground, and that's why most of its uh, tax base has moved to Texas. But in regards to the reparations, the amount that they're asking for is $12 trillion across the nation, and I think it is highly possible.
Well, I believe that these type of discussions are, first of all, I do not believe there's not going to be any reparations no matter what state or what no, there's not going to be any reparations in California, and there's not going to be any countrywide reparations. How long ago was slavery and what year are we in today? If they wanted to give reparations, they've had how many years to do it and they've never done it. Secondly, I if black people were in California were to get reparations, okay, that's fine. But I live in Arizona next door. That wouldn't be fair to other blacks in the other 49 states. What would they get? Nothing? Like that doesn't make sense. Why black people in California would get it, but other states that they don't get it. I'm in Arizona. Do I have to hurry up and move to California? Like, what would be the qual? The thing
You
is,
wouldn't qualify for it.
so but it's not, the thing is, it's not going to happen. It's just something to get black people excited. They're not going to give away $5 million to every black person in California. And then secondly, what is black? Are you going to give a mixed race person any of this money? Like, that's the thing. When you start talking about how much talking about reparations, who would qualify as black? If you have some black in you, do you get it? What if you're mixed race, what if you are a mixed race person, but it's since slavery or since segregation? Do you get the money? Like, how are they going to determine which black people get it? If you're from Africa, do you get the money? If you're from the
No,
Caribbean, do you
no.
get the money? How are they going to trace which blacks to give the money?
We're going to trace which backs get the money by going to the 1890 census, the first time that black people were allowed to be censored by the nation. The only people who would qualify for any type of reparations would be foundational black Americans who could trace their lineage to slavery in the Americas. So that answers that. So it can be tracked. It's very easy. I think with Ancestry.com, I was able to see my grandfather's name on the census for about $14. So it's not
So,
expensive.
so does a person that has some black in them that could trace their ancestry to the 1890s, let's say the person, let's say the person does not even visually look black, right? like a lot of people have different races, are going to have different races in them if they were to do ancestry.com and these different sites. So if I have some let's say I visually look white, but I have, a certain percentage of black DNA and I live in California and it can be traced to the 1890s, do I get a check for 5 million? Cuz I bet you there'll be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork that will be so proud to be black.
Yes, and one of the other stipulations that we are adding is you have to have claimed to be black within the last 10 years of reparations. So if they release reparations today, and like you said, you got that 30% mixture that can be traced back to 1890, but on your last five census paperworks and job applications, you put white, then you would not qualify for reparations.
Well, I firmly believe this is something that will never happen. Slavery was so long ago, and if they wanted to give black people reparations, they would have done it. So I just find this type of topic just to be, I mean, it's something to talk about, but it's never going to happen. And I think that let's just say hypothetically, it did happen. There will be so many lawsuits, all kinds of people saying, well, I'm black, I'm 5%, I'm 4%. Like, it just, like, and then what about, like, there's going to be black people since slavery, say someone like me, my family is from, two other countries. Um, so like you don't think that other blacks want to get the money too? They could say, well, I still face discrimination regardless of if they are black people with uh
But what you got to understand is reparation is not a discrimination claim. It's a claim against the American government that participated in slavery. Unlike a lot of countries who were affected by the transatlantic slave trade that was initiated by all these other countries, a lot of those countries don't exist anymore. But the American government does exist still, and they did profit off of us. And I want to add context. Remember when they were talking about freeing the slaves, we were just property, and that was the same talk being held there. It's I don't like this talk because it's never going to happen. I have a slave plantation worth $5 million. They just gonna make me give my $5 million away, and if history reflects, it did happen. So I think the black people who are foundational to the building of America have a tenacity and a perseverance that it can't be denied. And again, these reparation talks have been going on for the last 10 to 15 years. But if you notice, this year and last year, they have been in the political zeitgeist. They have been the main talks in a lot of these Democratic and liberal circles and Republican, even though most of them are arguing against it. So I think we made a lot of progress, and I think we're a lot closer than you think.
I stand firmly in what I said earlier. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that black people or any black person in the United States is going to receive any form of reparation. So that's my opinion on reparations.
And I accept your opinion.
So back to George Clooney, who this video is about. Does he or any famous person that has a lot of clout, can actors, athletes, musicians, do they have the right to ask for the president to step down? Should they basically, do they have the right to ask the president to step down? Or like say that he's an actor, right? So he's a rich, famous person and he's been around other prominent presidents, politicians, people that regular people never get the chance to be around. However, some will say that although he is an actor and he's wealthy and all that, that doesn't mean that his opinion is worth any more. his opinion is worth any more than a regular person's opinion.
Oh, sorry. With I think if Sean Puffy Cole showed us anything with his Rock the Vote campaign for Obama at the time, superstars did have a lot of political influence because they were the main way to get the youth and other fence riders more engaged in the political zeitgeist. But the issue is now with the social media culture, those type of campaigns don't work. However, on the political level, you know, uh, an individual can only give so much money to a presidential candidate. However, they can buy the $5,000 plates at dinner, the $25,000 plates at bigger dinners, and it still goes into the campaign fund while not being harmed by the anti-lobbying laws that are in effect in Congress. So I think people with the political stature and finances like a George Clooney have a lot to say and demand of the president.
So, should the Democratic Party take his opinion seriously?
I think so. I think, like I said, Abigail Disney, the heir to the Disney fortune, I think a lot of these superstars and very rich elitists are banding together. And George Clooney is more like in the movies, just a voice of a political group of people who are elite, who have money, and who really believe that Trump winning the election is a detriment to the American populace, and that the Democrats have a responsibility to put a strong enough candidate to go against Trump.
So, should the American people listen to the opinions of famous people?
I mean, not more than anybody else's opinion that they listen to, but I think stagecraft and politics goes over the average consumer's head. So a lot of the underlying things that are going on in the political sphere, I think most people miss out on. So they look for people to just feed them information, and George Clooney is one of the feeders.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add about, this breaking story today?
Yes, I think it was a very interesting story. Another huge contributor to the Biden campaign and Democratic administration is political analyst Bill Maher. I'm curious to see how he feels about the strength of Joe Biden in this current election, because I think he gave $1 million to the Biden campaign in total in order for him to win the last election. So I think once he loses that bulwark of support, we'll really have an understanding about how the elites in America look at Joe Biden.
Who did you say gave $1 million?
Bill Maher. I don't know if you know, he's an ex-comedian, uh, political analyst with the late night talk show Real Talk with Bill Maher on HBO. He was very influential in not only the Biden win, but he also had gave significant amount of money to the Hillary Clinton campaign loss. So he is a staunch Democrat supporter. So I think, you know, in line with George Clooney, since he is still just as famous but more political. I'm curious to see his take on the Biden withdrawal.
Okay, yeah, I looked him up. I just wanted to be sure. Yeah, I do know who he is. So you're saying he gave $1 million in the last election?
Yes, affirmative. He's because they a lot of Democrats believe Trump is going to somehow destroy the country, and that they feel dilapidated Joe Biden is a better fit for president than a fully functioning Trump. While I might disagree with that opinion, I do know that it's their strong opinion. That's why it's so much controversy with George Clooney asking for this step down. It's almost like we're finally seeing The same way we've seen the split in the Republican Party over Trump, I think now we're starting to see that same split manifest in Joe Biden.
But like you said earlier, in your opinion, you think that it's too late and that whether or not he steps down, it's a done deal.
Yes, a lot of the political analysts I've seen were saying he should have announced he wasn't going to run again. Soon as he got elected, a funny, to me, a very interesting factoid is ex-President Bill Clinton is younger than Joe Biden and Donald Trump right now. Younger. A lot of people are starting to say, should it be an age limit for the presidency? I think that Joe Biden administration, especially if he steps down, I expect to see a major rule like that in Congress be put into place.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. I just looked it up. He is 77 years old, Bill Clinton. He has a birthday coming up on August 19th, so he'll be 78. And then Donald Trump is 78. So that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I've been really tossing and turning with this political intrigue. Again, a lot of people theorize after Super Tuesday, I think that's back in March or February, that's when Biden was going to announce he's not well enough to run for presidency and they were going to put somebody in and start running then. But I think what they believed was the Democrats were hesitant to do that because it was almost as if showing a sign of weakness and would also call in to question the last 2, 3 years of this Biden presidency. So I really think they kind of boxed themselves into a very precarious position, rigging the election in 2020.
Just to clarify, who rigged the election?
I was just trying to slip that in, making a joke.
So I looked it up. Super Tuesday was March 5th. So it's been 4 months and 5 days since then. And we, like I said earlier, we have 4 months to go until the election.
Yes, and that was the overall theory that with 8 months to go, they would have had a lot more significant chance of pushing a new Democratic candidate on the people. But then, like you say, waiting all the way to after the fourth, that puts 90 days is not enough time, in my opinion, to enamor the American populace to a new candidate for the Democratic Party.
Well, it would actually be like a little bit less than 120 days because it's about 5 days less than 4 months, as the election's on November 5th and it's July 10th right now. So that gives about 3 months and 26 days.
Yes, it was reported there was slight dips in the polling data for Biden going into this election year run and campaign, but the drops were so significant after the presidential debate. That's why a lot of the people who support the Democratic Party are trying to really scramble and figure out what would be the best and right decision, not only for the party, but for the American populace going forward. So I think it's something very difficult because no one-term president has not ran again for medical issues. So it will be a political first, I believe.
So do you think that, remind me again, if you believed that he should just stay in the race or if they should replace him right now, even though you believe he's going to lose either way?
Yes, but my belief is they should replace him right now. And I don't believe there's no way for the Democratic Party to win the election this year. So whoever they would choose now will be just who they would be putting as the forerunner for the 2028 campaign. So I don't think they should pull. I think they should pull him right now and put somebody immediately, but not do it with the expectation that he will win. Only that it will give him a stronger foothold going forward for the 2028 election campaign.
Okay. So, is there anything else you'd like to add to this story?
Not at all. It was a very interesting topic and really tickled my goat to speak about. I appreciate you having me up here.
Okay, well, I think that's going to do it. Thank you very much for coming on. And thank you guys all for watching. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for the next live. Thanks for coming on, OG.
Not a problem. It's always a pleasure to hear Miss Kelly give me the news.
Okay, everyone. Have a great night.